We are Mpaka Creations on Instagram. On Facebook, we are Esther Mpaka. On YouTube, we are one word, Center Talks. So, before we go further ado or do anything else, I just want to take this opportunity to introduce this beautiful lady. Yes, kindly tell us your name by yourself.
My name is Damaris Modhoni Kimani, but I usually prefer Damaris Kimani a lot. Yes, Damaris Kimani is a gospel minister, an inspirational speaker, an events manager, an actress, and CEO Most Loved Initiative. Wow. Yes, an initiative that deals with the less fortunate in the society.
Yes, but before you became all these things, you have a story that is very, very powerful. And I know some people have never heard of this story. How was your childhood in relation to your father?
So growing up, ever since I was a child, first the structure was amazing. Venye tu familia inakuanga dad, mom and siblings. But unfortunately, around somewhere, the devil got an opportunity to steal and destroy my dad. And when I say that, I mean by stealing him and getting him into alcoholism, which became so much to a point of he could not control it or even be able to wake up to go to work. My dad used to be a driver. We used to stay in Umoja. That is where I was born and raised, kabla tujahama, and we shifted to Kayole. But before then, my dad was working with a certain circle, and so when the drinking became too much, it was too hard for him to wake up. Ile kitu yenye tunaitanga hangover. So at some point, the management, it was over their hands, and you know, they just fired him. And so from then, he continued with the drinking, and to a point he became so bitter and violent. That is where violence began. So my mom used to have this job.
Okay, sorry, was he violent to your mom or with everybody else outside there, wherever he was going to?
With my mom mostly. So that time my mom alikuwa na job. She used to sell githeri, mahindi ya kuchemsha, ngwashe and all that. So the work was really doing amazing until this one night where my dad was so big, alikuwa mlevi kabisa, and it was around 2 a.m. He was knocking at the gate, and at some point, hatukuwa na kifungua gate, we had just misplaced it. And we knew that every time he will come at night and behave in a certain way, we knew that hiyo ni vita. And so that particular point, we were already tensing, and we had to wake up the neighbors at that particular time. And when the gate was opened, I remember he came in, and the first thing he started, it was beating my mom, using harsh words and heavy words on her. I remember that night we had slept late because I was helping my mom to prepare some mahindi, maharago and all that, yeah, for tomorrow. So my dad took everything that we had prepared, akazimwaga nje. My mom used to buy things in bulk so that at least I was able to save. So for instance, alikuwa kibai makaa na nunua gunia. So my dad took some mafuta ya stove, akaenda akakishia gunia yote, like she destroyed everything with that night. Hizo manyungu akamake sure amezibonda, like he destroyed everything. Yeah. So after that, life began to be so tough.
That was the first time alikuwa amemchapa?
Yes. So life began to be so tough to a point of my dad is not at work, my mom is not at work. We have to eat, we have to go to school, we have to live. The house must be paid. But now, at this particular point, it is when my dad was now nowhere to be found. Alikuwa sasa anaenda, anakunywa, analala, hakuji home. And it was so tough for us because at some point even the landlady became so...
How old were you guys at that time?
I think nilikuwa mdogo sana because like our last born, ndio kalikuwa baby, kalikuwa katoto kabisa. So we are 4 of us, I'm the second born. Yeah, so this landlady came and gave us a notice, and she was like, if by this point amtakuwa mmelipa house rent, you'll have to be chased out. And it was so unfortunate because hiyo wakati ilifika, nothing had happened, and that is what the lady did. Alikuja na wanaume, and it was bad. If somebody ashaifukuzwa kwa nyumba, akatola vitu nje, you know how it feels. You know, like hawataki kujua kama uko na mtoto, ama mtenda wapi. Yes, ama ni saa ngapi. So that is what they did. They came and they moved everything out, and from there tulika tuko hizo vitu Tulikaa tu hapo, and now we are like, where do we even start from, where do we even go? Hata hatuna pesa ya kusema we can go and sustain ourselves somewhere. And that is when my mom took a point of calling her sister who lives at Ruai, and she was like, can you accommodate us for some time because this and this has happened, and then from hapo we'll know what to do. And the lady was like, it's okay, no problem. So all the way from Ruai. But when we were there, of course the burden became too heavy because this is a family that we have gone to. Yes, wako na watoto na sisi tena tumekuja na mzigo, hata hatujabeba maziwa or anything, so you can imagine. And at some point my mom thought maybe going to Ushago up country would be a better solution for us, and that is what we did. After alisaidiwa na fare, we went to Ushago in Nyeri, and that is where we started life again. It was hard because I can imagine mtoto amelelewa Nairobi, una hiyo transition ya kumwambia now we are going to live to Ushago. It is so hard, kwa madhi, it was so hard and unbelievable. Like,
na vile watu wanaulizanga maswali mbaya, huyu naye alienda kuolewa amerudi na watoto, ya bwanaka alienda wapi?
Imagine. So it was so hard, it was so tough, especially for us. But all in all, we adapted to that life, and ikaanza kusomea huko. So hiyo kurauka ilafika mahali hata unaenda shule mguu tupu, umebeba paper bag, una hata bag, you know, ilikuwa tu hivyo.
And at that time, what was your father doing in Nairobi? Was he already with another woman, or what was he doing?
No, at that particular time hatukujua, cause ile wakati tulitolewa vitu nje, hata tukimpigia simu the phone was off, like alikuja tu akazima simu. So he was nowhere to be found. Even as we were staying at kwa Sizia Mathe, like even trying to reach him bado, there was no change, like he was nowhere to be found, and that's why we took a step of going to Ushago. So even at this particular point, we don't know where he is, and so we stayed there like for a year or so. And then at some point in between, he began looking for us, and that is when he was told that to travel to Ushago.
He had forgotten kabisa, ndio akaanza kurudi sasa. Okay.
So akakuja, and you know, he's like so apologetic for whatever has happened. I'm so sorry. I'm here to take back my family. I promise I'll take responsibility, nini, and all that. And so my mom trusted him, and we all did. And we knew that, we knew that everything is going to be okay. And now this time, kumbe sasa alienda, akachukua vitu na akahamia Kayole, and that's how we got ourselves to Kayole. And so remember when we were living there, of course, life was a bit simple and at least at peace, because hakukuwa na hizo vurugu and everything. But at some point, it began changing tu pole pole. And of course, angekuwa tu bitter sana kwa Mathe, atamtusi nini. A lot of drama was going on. And so at some point tukiwa kwa hiyo single room tukahama tukaenda double room, and from then we like started having things that we could never afford before. For instance, a TV it's something that hatukuwa nayo for the longest time. Akaanza kubuy viti hatukuwa nazo, tulikuanga na kiti ya gari, kiti kamoja hivi ka gari. So akaanza tu kubuy vitu. For us, we were very happy because we were like, hey, at least he has changed and everything now is moving on swiftly. But shock on us, one day this watchman comes where my dad used to go for clubbing, just around that area. And he was like, you know, ile company yenye Kimani anatembea nayo, it's not a good company. You guys, you have to watch out. But my mom was like, you know, every time or sometimes when people start succeeding, that is when people come and start creating up stories. Huyu ni kama lingi Illuminati, huyu ni kama anafanya sijui nini, you know. So my mom never gave it attention. But this watchman never gave up. He kept coming to us, and he was like, please, you guys, you have to watch out, because the company that your dad is going on with ni company ya waizi, inajulikana si company nzuri. And so at some point, okay, it got my mom, but alikuwa like, how? You know, even you cannot imagine for a minute, mtu alikuwa dereva, ni mzae. Ati wizi, like you cannot even...
At least ulevi mlikuwa mnajua, lakini wizi.
That is something that you cannot just accept hivyo. But at some point madhangu, so tulikuwa namba kuna company anakuanga nayo, wanakunywanga mpaka asubuhi nini. So one day my mom wakes me up very early in the morning, and she's like, hebu tuende tukapipa hapa kwa hizo mambao tuone kama ni ukweli. So siku moja tunaenda tunachungulia, tunaona. So mimi nilikuwa naenda na ile mentality ya I want to see those guns, you know, I want to see them like in gangster way form, but I'm not seeing, I'm just seeing people in a table form, they're just having fun nini, you see. And ikakuwa tu hivyo. But from then, I remember tukiwa kwa hiyo double room, one point it reached and my dad was like, there are some visitors I'll be bringing on board today, tomorrow, so I want you guys to prepare food stuffs nini and stuff. So tulikuwa very excited because si tunapenda wageni. So hiyo wakati my mom is like, endea sijui nini, endea nini, so niko huko nakimbia juu chini, naendea mafuta, naendea whatever, and we are here, we have prepared everything, na wageni wakakuja. So it was very short and brief. My dad alikuwa tu ile, sasa nimekuja na mgeni na kuanzia leo huyu mama mnaona hapa, nataka mumheshimu kama mama yenu, huyu ni mama yenu mdogo.
Just hold on at there. That's too much to chew. We're going out for a short break. We are coming back. And this story has just begun. I'm sure you want to hear huyu mama ni mgeni gani huyu. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Center Talk. Wow, what a powerful testimony from Damaris Kimani. She doesn't look like she has been through any of what she is saying. And if you were there for the first session, you cannot go anywhere because we are back. We are back with more fire. Okay, we are Mpaka Creations on Instagram. We are Esther Mpaka on Facebook, and Center Talk, just one word. The Bible says that the mercies of the Lord are new every morning. And he is also the fourth man in that fiery furnace you are in. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Tumefikia hapo mahali a woman comes, you welcome, your mother welcomes her, and then you discover she's just another trouble.
Yes.
What does that do to you?
So when she comes, of course it was a very bitter pill for us to swallow, and I remember my mom walked away at that moment na akaenda, because of course it was heavy on her. And of course to us it was, and that time you look so confused, but you are a child, you just have to accept whatever your dad brings on table. And yeah, we just had to swing with it. So when this lady came, that is when the family ni kama ilitaniwa hivi, kwa sasa it's two different worlds. Because now my dad, all his attention, all his responsibility, all his love went to the other family. So for us, we were like a by the way to him. And I tell you, after being on that double room, I remember we went to a self-contained house, which it was 2-bedroom, and we thought at least atakama basi have kuteka another woman, we will have peace, we will live by our own, hakutakuwa na vita kila wakati.
At that time mlikuwa mmeprove anaiba ama bado hamejaprove anaiba?
Tulikuwa na hiyo nini bado, yeah, but bado haijatu hit kabisa until we were in this self-contained. So tukiwa hapo tukafeel now, I think now at least we are here, wacha aende ataende kabisa, because at least tutakuwa na peace of mind. But I tell you, it was the beginning of trouble. And when we were in that self-contained house, I remember that is when we started having attention of the CIDs and the policemen. Every time wako kwa mlango, every time wako kwa dirisha, tunatafuta Kimani. And now that is when it really hit us like, by the way, our dad is ni mwizi. And I tell you, especially for me, because we are so very close with my mom, even till date. And every time something will happen, angekuja share, because you see now it was too heavy on her, this information, to a point of, it is not something good to go and share it with them.
Hata mtaki watu wajue.
Exactly. Even my siblings, I remember we used to cover my dad up like all the time, because unaona wakati maybe wameenda wameiba, because walikuwa naiba magari, utapata kama wameiba Kisumu wataenda wajifiche sijui Mombasa, kama wameiba Mombasa wataenda wajifiche sijui wapi. So watu wao wamezoea, hata kama mzae ako absent kwa life zetu, at least he calls and anasema anataka kuongea na sisi. But now everything is changing.
So when was he eventually arrested?
At some point, I remember they had gone to steal some, I think it was in Eldoret, and whatever happened. Ilikuwa tu ni bahati yake, because I don't know what told him to sit at the back. And when this incident happened, I think alilala kwa mtaro or something. Now this is according to how our stepmother used to give us, because stepmother alikuwa updated on everything. Everywhere my dad will go, alikuwa
anamsaidia kuiba.
I think alikuwa tu na connection, so somehow connected. But she was not part of it, I think, kwa ground, but she was somehow connected with their friends and everything. And after amejificha, and at some point wakakuja wakarealize, because that day that incident happened, kila mtu aliuawa mwenye alikuwa kwa gari, apart from my dad. because this was a car stolen and mwenye alibiwa ile dawa yake ilisha haraka, akaamka and akarealize nini imeenda, and he had to call and say gari yangu imeibiwa na number plate ni hii. So this policeman said we are going to block kuenda Nairobi na kuenda past Eldoret, and that is how they got caught. But for him I think alijificha, and then at some point akakuja akakuwa realize that kuna mwenye alibaki, akakuja akakuwa ni kama most wanted, alikuwa anatafutwa. Hata place alipatikana I think alipigwa mob justice, ndio akakuwa rescued with the police.
Akapelekwa sasa kwa jela.
Yes, akapelekwa Eldoret prison.
Na hapo nyuma kidogo kabla uendelee, kuna kitu ilikuwa hapenia kwa life yako, because you've just said about this woman used to update you.
Yes.
There's a time you had talked about looking for school fees and money, and you went to your father's to ask him for money.
Yes.
Kulienda aje?
So what happened is, of course I was so much affected to a point of I started doing drugs, and I started doing drugs when I was in class 7, because all these things zilikuwa zina happen around hapo, and time yenye nilikuwa namaliza class 8 and I'm approaching form 1, of course you know you have to prepare in advance nini, but at this point I'm trying to reach out to my dad, but he's nowhere to be found, because of course pia his lines alikuwa akipiga simu anatupa hiyo line, so unless he calls you cannot get him kwa rahisi unless you reach out to the stepmother. And at this time I'm trying to reach him out, and he's like, you know, utaniambia venye ndatumia pesa zangu, usini nini, usini, you know, it was super,
Amechange to
yeah, amechange. And for me when nilikuja nikaona hiyo love haiko, I felt so distracted. That is when I thought that doing drugs, that would be a way of me to escape whatever I'm going through. And at this particular point all this is happening, and one day anakuja na to visit after life imetugonga kwa ile self-contained na there is no peace, there is no nothing. Life alikuja akaacha kulipa nyumba and everything, tukaenda tukahamia single room tena, so squeezed and everything. I used to call it a cube. So wakati akaoneshwa mali tulikuwa tunaishi, and I remember he had like 2 visits, and the third visit it is when I was so excited after seeing him, and I thought sasa hii school fees imekam, because mind you nilika almost 1 year nje bila kwenda shule, and at that point we even went and worked as housemates with my mom so that we can be able to raise school fees. That lady we were working for akasema tumemuibia, and we had to go back to hizo mashida zetu.
And people would believe, Mamuibia, because if your dad was a thief, then she can just say, you guys are thieves.
Of course, that particular time hakuwa anajua, because we never exposed to anyone. But juu napitia shida, of course you'll be the one nini.
So what did your dad do?
Yeah, so at this particular point, anakuja akakelea do kwa meza, and he's claiming that me and my mom tunafanya prostitution. Like it was just a bad picture. And I remember our siblings were there, and like the brother mwenye amenifuata alikuwa like, baba mbona unachapa msona hajafanya makosa? Akaambia stupid, hebu wewe lala, wewe ndio umechapwa. And from that moment akaniambia hizi ni pesa niko nazo, from today you either go choose be a prostitute, a housemaid or a chokora, yenye utaona itakufit, go and do any of nini. And that was the last encounter I had with my dad. And from then I remember he even called the stepmother and told her, I want you to go to the club and start ordering, I'm coming. And that is how he went.
The next thing you heard now is when he had been now arrested in Eldoret.
Yes.
Oh, okay, now we have connected back to there.
So after that point, of course, unakaa hivi and you're just having your moment, and you're like, by the way, I think I'm not worth this world, I'm not worth even kwenda shule. I think anyway the prostitution really fits me well. I think your chokora really, like a lot of things were going on through my mind. And I remember this time my mom comes at home, she's very excited, and ako like amepata at least 5,000, and anapata a very bad atmosphere, and she's like, what is happening, is everything okay? And mi nakumbuka zile words za mwisho, go be a nini. So whenever I was trying to tell her what had happening, nilikuwa nachokiwa na kilio na shindwa kuongea. So my brother was the one who told him whatever had happened. My mom was like, are you sure? Amekuja hapa akaonesha pesa. Akaniambia tupige magoti tuombe hiyo pesa. Pesa ioneshangu jua. And from then, that is now after like a month or so, tukasikia he was arrested. And I tell you, I was very bitter with my dad. And after hearing that he was arrested, I was like, why haven't they killed him? That guy deserves to die. Like he's supposed to rot it. I was so bitter with my dad. I was like, he's even not supposed to be on this earth. Ama mimi niende kwa makarao niambie nipatie gani muue. Like there is no difference of telling people that I have a dad and my dad is dead. That's how bitter I was with him. And I remember at that point, of course, through that journey and the drug, venye nilikuwa na struggle na drugs, I used to have friends who used to come and tell me, Dama, you need kuokoka, manzi uko so talented, why are you doing this to your life? But they never understood what I was going through, because none of anybody, I used to tell them that whatever was happening at home. I remember a lot of people even around where we were staying walikuwa wananijudge, because mimi nilikuwa nachana hata kwa barabara kama mtu don't care, na kuja nikiwa makali.
Kwa hiyo by your own father, unajua it still doesn't matter.
Yeah, una feel like this is your own parent, not even your step but your own parent. So watu kwa barabara walikuwa like, huyu hata kazi yake ni kukaa na wanaume huko, atapata mimba nini. I was like, you guys continue talking. At the end of the day, it's my life.
So what was the turning point?
So my turning point was one day nimekaa tu nimejitayarisha na ngoja kwenda sherehe kama kawaida, and this time it was a little bit different because nimekaa tu but phone call haiko imeingia. And then at this particular point nikiwa nyumbani, I felt like I was having a conversation with someone I was not seeing, and this person was really challenging me to a point I started crying. Na sijaguzwa, nini anything. Yes, I just started
Radi japigwa.
Tarumba hata ijalia. So I just started crying, and I remember it left me with one option, and it was like, Dama, you need to give your life to Christ. And I had sikupigana na hiyo sauti. Sikupigana nayo. It was like, yes, I really need to know this. And like, I used to hate God, I used to hate church, but I really want to know this God. And I remember I blocked one of my friends, alikuwa anaitwa Jemo, nikamwambia Jemo, nataka unisaidie kuokoka. And he was like, Dama, you know you are always a joker, unaweza kuokoka leo backslide kesho, so this time unajua. And I was like, si wewe umenitafuta, na mimi nimekutafuta, so I need you to help me. And the guy immediately he began sending me some Bible verses, you know, some prayers, and he was like, nataka kukuinvite kuna event fulani kwa hii church nini. And I tell you, Esther, transition yangu ili happen so fast. Unaonanga venye watu usema, unajua hata kama ulikuwa na addictive na hii kitu, utaenda ukiacha pole pole. Kama ulikuwa unakunywa Guinness 2 utakunywa moja.
Ya Mungu anafanyanga hivi.
Never took that time for me. Like it started immediately. Nilikuwa nasikia harufu ya bangi, nasikia inanirritate. Naona mtu akichana na muhurumia, you know. And through that journey that you walked with me and an invite kwa church events and all that, that is when I got saved, like confessing. And it was in 2015, 25th December, actually siku yenye Yesu alikuwa anazaliwa. That is one thing that I love so much with the, yes. So that is when I got saved. But remember, wanasemanga ukiokoka the old is gone and the new has come. So remember this time, so of course jani yangu shule inaendelea, and I started becoming this prayerful person, and I fast and everything, I'm reading the word. And I tell you, every time I used to sleep, like I used to dream with my dad amekufa. And I was like, ilikuwa inanisumbua. You know, dreaming consecutive, like mara 3 zimefuatana, like babako amekufa, ilianza kunisumbua. And at some point, every time I used to pray, say niko hapo, God, I pray for our country, kitu ina come, forgive your dad. Esther naenda kwa bafu kuoga kawaida, forgive your dad. You know, like every time, like mostly when I used to pray, it used to disturb me. I'm praying for something, but inakuja tu inanihit, forgive your dad. And I nilikuwa nakaa chini nasema, God, kama kuna kitu moja nilisema sitawahi fanya kwa hii maisha, it's to forgive my dad. But I tell you, that conviction was strong. Ilikuwa like, yo, I'm not leaving you. Either when the kwacho wapi, I will follow you. You have to forgive your dad.
So how did you forgive him? During that thing, you just felt like, because somebody is watching who is so bitter, and they're trying to find a formula of forgiving someone.
Hata sikubishana, it was a very short prayer. I was like, God, if it's your will for me to forgive my dad, let your will be done. As short as that, and I cried for long. And let me tell you, immediately after confessing those words, and it was very genuine from my heart, I felt like something was really holding me tight. Ilinitoka. Yes, ilinitoka completely, and I think that's why I cried so much. And I was like, I really need to go and even visit my dad and tell him I have forgiven him.
Wow, I can't believe that time is up. We are going to call you back for another interview concerning your musical journey. And for us, we are Mpaka Creations on Instagram, Esther Mpaka on Facebook, and Center Top, just one word, on YouTube. Before we go, we want to take this opportunity to thank the owners of this beautiful set. This program was shot at Country House Inn in Karen, and the Great Peerless Company for their continuous support. Also want to appreciate my director of photography, King Slacky, and his